As part of your work with Deutsche Grammophon, you came into contact with one of the greatest pop groups of the 20th century. Who was that and how did that come about?
Yes, that was quite an extraordinary set of circumstances. Part of my job as when I was sales manager at DGG, which I became, I was 21 when I was appointed as sales manager. I used to go on sales trips all around the country, and so I knew people. I knew the guys in the main shops in the main towns, and it was a trip to the northwest, and trip to the northwest, Liverpool. There were two big shops in Liverpool, B Radio and Nems, both in Whitechapel. And Nems was the business of the Epstein family. And Brian Epstein I met early on, the same age as me, God rest his soul, and we got along very well. We used to go out and have a beer when I was up there, and he said, on one trip he said, Graham, I'd like you to come and meet a group I'm managing who recently made some recordings in Hamburg for your company. And off we went for a lunchtime gig, which they were doing in those days, either a Monday or a Friday, but it was always a Monday or a Friday they did a lunchtime gig. This was the Beatles in the cabin. And I heard them, I met the guys, different group then, because no Ringo, but there was Pete Best and Stuart Sutcliffe in the group. It was 5. And they, as I said, they made some recordings for us in Hamburg, which were produced by Bert Kempfert of Swinging Safari fame. And I said to Brian, well, it's, beyond my remit, but when I get back to London, I'll write to people, I'll write to the Hamburg, and I'll tell them, that about the group, and etc., which I did all that, spent a bit of time on it. And management dragged their feet. In the meantime, Brian had taken them off to Decca, who also turned them down, and then to one of the EMI labels, namely Parlophone, and the rest is history.
So this story about how you came into contact with the Beatles in their early days, and how they nearly got signed by one record label but ended up making their business with another, was family folklore for many years. So how does that story now become one that everyone knows about?
Well, it's another coincidence, quite extraordinary. I never told the story outside the family because there was nobody still living who was around at that time and who went on a trip. There was a company that organised a trip to Hamburg in April '61 of the top dealers in the country, and Brian was on that trip. In fact, there's a picture of him and I on a steamer on the Elbe, but all the others had passed on. So there's nobody really knew anything about this story. Certainly nobody at DGG who's alive and still alive. So I never mentioned it because it sounds such a sort of like a fairy story. Until I suppose it was 4 years ago, not more. I got a phone call out of the blue, and the gentleman said, I was looking for Graham Pauncefort, and I said, you've got it. And he said, well, have you got time to speak about Deutsche Grammophon Polydor 1961 and the Beatles? And I said, good heavens. And he said, yes. He said, my name's Mark Lewisham, Lewison, Lewson, and I'm writing a complete story of the Beatles in several volumes. And I'd like to know anything you can tell me about those days. And the amazing thing was that he knew so much and corrected me on dates, because I mentioned in one particular reason, I can't quite remember what the reason was, about the 9th of December, a meeting on the 9th of December 1961, and he said, "Oh no, that wasn't the 9th, that was the 5th, because I got a letter from Brian to EMI talking about a meeting with another record company." So he had all this information. So I went and met him in where he lives in Berkhamsted, and subsequently, a year or so later, went for the launch of the book, and he very kindly gave me some mentions in the book and about my part in those early days, and that I had tried to get them fixed up with Polydor, but it was not to be. So
you played one part in what ended up being a big history.
that's right.
At the early doors.
That's right.